Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay, I'll just wait a few more seconds before I keep talking to give others a chance to join, if you don't mind. Okay, so today we are doing a metallic surface. And of course, at first, when you look at any metallic surface, it seems like it's just um, very, very challenging. It is challenging in a way that you have to be patient and you have to do all the little uh, different values that you see that aren't the usual light to dark. There's nothing like that with metal. Okay, with metal, it's very reflective, so it's going to reflect everything near it. Hello, Linda. Good morning. Yes, I am feeling better. Just a spot of migraine yesterday. It's very hot where I am right now. Okay, so I chose this photo, the spoon, because I feel like it's a good um, it's a good subject to start with. It's not too small, but it's not too complicated either. Okay, so and also it looks nice if you even if you want to frame it later on. It by itself it looks okay without any backgrounds. Okay, and this one you can really not do any backgrounds for it because remember, this spoon was probably photographed on a white surface with a lot of bright lights, white walls, because as you can see in the photo, there are no other colors really reflecting, but more of white, darks, and metallic. Okay, so when you're painting metal, anything that's near it will be reflected. So if, for example, I'm going to paint this and it has this metallic sheen here, everything will reflect. So if I put it near me, you will see there's a reflection of my skin. Okay, so that's a challenge. Okay, so this spoon is fairly straightforward. So I chose this, and I hope you have fun when you try it out for yourself. Okay, so I've already pre-sketched it. Here's mine. Okay, so I'll before I go painting, I'm just going to show you guys how I sketch it because it will help sketching it out first beforehand. All the details that you should remember or should be marked. It will help when you paint later on. Okay, so for now, I'm going to flip the camera down. Okay, and then flip it around as usual. All right. Okay, so let me just adjust the lights. Okay, so for this one, anyway, it's a screen, so we don't need to adjust so much. Okay, so let me just go over it. Okay, so when I sketched it, okay, of course, you will start with your outline of the spoon. Okay, so once you've done that, well, of course, do it well. Okay, and then you look at the parts where you will see hard lines. Okay, for example, this part here, then you can sketch it out. Okay, you can do the lines right there because you can clearly see that they have a hard edge. Okay, so you have hard lines here and there, and you can sketch those out because they will help you. Okay, and then you also try to sketch out the edges no matter how thin so that you don't forget them. Okay, because these parts right here, doing them, okay, doing them will make a difference. You can see there's a light gray on the edge all the way back there. All right, so sketch it out. Sketch the hard lines that you see, mainly the outline of the whole spoon, the darkest parts, the parts where you see a hard line, then you can definitely sketch it out as well on your paper. Okay, so here is mine, as you can see. So I'm ready to paint it. Okay, so in my in the reference photo, which I shared with you guys, you will see that Okay, I'm just adjusting the lights, okay, so that it's bright for you guys. Okay, so in the reference photo, you will see that it's just mainly grays, okay? Mainly grays and black. So again, if you have a gray, you can use that, yes, definitely. Or you can also mix your own. All right, you don't have to use the black in your palette. You can mix your own blacks and even make it look better. Okay, so I'll start by using my Serrano palette. Okay, so I'll use the Serrano palette. It has the darks that I need. Okay, so for this, I'm going to use Paints Gray and Indigo. Okay, you can have a separate mixing area if you want. In my case, I will need because I've totally used up the ones here. Okay. Who here runs out of palette mixing plate space? I always do. All right, so just prepare your stuff. Okay, so again, you can always prepare your mixtures ahead of time. You can first try it out. Okay, so in my case, I'll be painting this for the first time now. So let me just go over it so that you can also see how I do things. Okay, so I have Paints Gray. So of course, I still want to see if I like how it looks like on with various tones, values. Okay, because we'll be needing a lot of that. So I'll try to make it go from medium to light and see if I like how it looks like. Okay. So if you want to have a tinge of blue with it, that's also fine. You can also do that. For example, you want to add a little bit of Russian blue with your gray to give it just a bit of color. Okay, you can use whichever blue you prefer. So let's say I'll try this out and swatch it. So I actually prefer this. Okay, so for my, so this one is just Paints Gray, and this one is Paints Gray with a bit of Russian blue. Okay, so I like it. It gives it a more metallic vibe for me. Okay, so that's my preference. You can totally go all gray all the way, or you can do something similar like mine. Up to you. Okay, so that's your choice as an artist. In my case, I'm going to go for this. So I'll prepare now a mixture, a mid mixture that I can easily um, lighten if I want to. Okay, so I just prefer to prepare this ahead of time and of course swatch it out. Okay, so just really a bit of blue, not so much, not too much. All right, just to make sure. Okay, so now I sketched it on this tiny piece of paper, so I'll zoom in so that you can see me work on it closely. Okay, let me just zoom in. All right. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Okay, just let me know if you want to zoom further or any other things. Okay, so now I've prepared it, and of course I also have this ready because sometimes you also need the darker parts. So as always, we will start with the lighter ones. Okay, so from our reference, this will be these areas that you visibly see are lighter. Okay, so we'll go over that. So let's start with a very, very pale wash. Okay, I'll put some here. And then I'll just go over those areas. So if you don't want your lines to show through, then erase it beforehand. Okay, so I'll start with the lightest in this area. And I'll even lighten it further. If you feel like it's too dark, just lift the color out and wipe it on your cloth or your tissue or your paper towel. Okay, so the first things that you will see are really very pale. Okay, you won't see the difference much at the start, but later on, when there are more other tones, you will see it. Okay, and here too. So I will add here. So the palest gray all around. Okay, let me just erase these parts that have a lot of strokes, pencil strokes. So I don't need to really cover the parts where I visibly can see it's very dark and nearly black. But all the other parts, I will cover it with a pale gray. Okay, so just, you have to be precise when you do this. You don't want for things to um, go beyond your sketch because, well, a spoon is man-made and it's very exact. Okay, so I'm just, again, going over the whole spoon besides except for the darkest parts. Okay, so if you're not in a hurry like me, then you can wait for it to dry naturally. Okay, so I'm sure you can already see there's a pale color, right? Very pale. So you go first with the palest color, and once you have that down, you let it dry. Thankfully, there are no very white highlights here. So this palest gray, this will serve as the highlight as well. Okay, so let me just use my blow dryer for this. Okay, and I also didn't use a too thick paper. This is just 200 GSM because I won't be doing any um, very heavy wet and wet, so this will do. Okay, so next, okay, so we'll now look at our spoon and see what our next values are. Okay, so for me, I'll start here, and using the same brush, I'm just going to get my thicker, my darker mixture and add the grays that I see. So there's a line of gray right here beside the black, so I'm going to add that. Okay, and then using my brush, okay, the tips of my brush a bit spread out, I'm going to mimic the brushed steel look, okay, because it's not too shiny that it's just glossy. There's a bit of texture to the metal, so I'm going to try to mimic that with strokes from my brush. Okay, so don't overdo it. Again, you can always come back to it later and add more if you feel like you need more lines. Okay, so for now, I added some and I also softened it. Okay, and right here, there's also a darker area, so I'm going to apply that. Okay, so this is a lot of really little work. Okay, I'll twist it around so you can see it better. Okay, so as you can see, I place it, I remove some paint, I soften parts, so that a lot of work like that going on. Okay, so a lot of patience, as you can see. If you have the patience and doing things part by part, then you can totally do this. It only looks extremely difficult at the start, but if you do it part by part, it really is very achievable. For me, this is much easier than painting a person. Okay, so now I have my gray here. Then I can just switch to an even smaller brush later on to add even the smallest lines. Okay, so now I'm dealing with the thicker lines and the darker lines. Okay, so let me, if you want, you can always go back to your palette and get a more concentrated mix. Okay, so again, I'm now going to go and do the darkest part here. So for this, I'm going to get from my palette directly because I need it to be really dark. Okay, so take your time, get your mixture right. And again, you can always test it out to see if you've got it right. Okay, so I like it. It's pretty dark. And again, if it doesn't come out dark enough later, I can always add another layer. Okay, so let me just twist it so my hand is not covering. Okay, so let me apply the darkest area so you can already appreciate the difference. So you're going to be doing a lot of little lines that vary in sizes next to each other in various values and tones. Okay, so that's the thing about painting metal. So if you painted something that's placed in a colorful area, it will also reflect all the colors in that area, which is also a nice challenge. So you can also try that out. Okay, so this is my darkest. And you want it to look crisp. Okay, you want that to be crisp so that the reflection is a reflection on metal. All right, so now that I have that, I can now go back to the midtones. So right here, the rim of the spoon, there's a mid-gray color. So I will add that now. Okay, so maybe I should zoom it even further so you guys can see it because we're working in small details now. Okay, but you can totally paint this bigger, okay? It might be easier for you if it's bigger. Okay, so again, adding the edge of the spoon. So the edge of the spoon is not razor sharp, right? So it will have this really very thin straight edge. So you have to also put this in. Again, all these little details will help your spoon look realistic. Okay, because if it doesn't have this, no matter how thin, it means your spoon is paper thin or razor sharp. Okay, which they wouldn't be because, well, that doesn't make sense. It will either wound you or be too flimsy. Okay, so I have my darkest and I have the rim. So already it's starting to look more solid. So you slowly work towards what you need. Okay, so next I'm gonna go back again to another dark area right here. There's a, let me switch brushes. I'm not confident with this brush. Okay. Okay, so I'm using a number 1 round brush. This is from the Fine Line set. Okay, so if you're gonna work small like this, like me, definitely have your detail brushes around. Okay, so and also when I'm working small, everything is near me. So take care because you can easily spill things on your working area. Okay, so there's a tiny line right here, which I will paint. Okay, and then the edge right here is a bit softer, so I'm going to soften it. And all the little curves and curls that you see, do them all, okay? No matter if it looks like there's going to be a lot of work, but if you do all of these, I promise it will look nice after. Okay, so you just really have to do all the little details that you see. So again, yeah, it is a lot of work, but again, if you get to finish it, it will really look awesome. Okay, so I'm adding thinner gray right here on the edge. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go back to my dark. I'm now working on the darker parts. Okay, so there's a bit right here on the edge, which I will add. So the dark parts can be a reflection from something dark in the room, maybe the camera when that was used to take this photo, or maybe something in the ceiling. Okay, so anything can really reflect. So try to um, take photos of metallic stuff in your house and put them in various areas. Um, like, what does it look like when you put it on a wooden table near the window? What does it look like when you put it on a white, uh, on top of a white cloth? Things like that. Okay, and here too, there's a bit of a dark line. So again, I will add that. All these little curls and little reflections, when you add them one by one, in the end, it amazingly it transforms the whole flat spoon into a metallic spoon. Okay, so you don't use metallic paint to make this metallic spoon look like metal. Okay, instead you will paint all the reflective details that you see, all the colors that it reflects. So I suggest you start with something like this, a spoon, or if you want it to be even smaller, a nib of a pen. Okay, a nib, for example, a nib of a fountain pen. So fountain pens already look really nice, and even if you just paint the nib like that, it's gonna look awesome. Okay, so here's my spoon right now. Here is the circle part of the spoon. Okay, so again, it's not finished. I will still add some grays right here, extra um, rendering, extra shading, but I like it already. Okay, so again, with a more concentrated color, I'm going to add to this. I'm going to do this part now with the spoon where it's really dark. Okay, so I've switched to a detail brush because, well, I'm working small and there are a lot of small lines. So do you guys like to work small as well? What is your biggest work? I mean, generally, nowadays, I feel like I like to work small because I get to finish it faster, I feel. But now that I'm doing this, probably not because it's so detailed. Okay, so again, adding the darkest area. So pay attention to the shapes of the reflection. They're not usually one thickness. They vary: thick, thin, thick, thin. Again, because of the shape of the spoon and things that it reflects. Okay, let me twist this around so I'm not covering. Okay, so right here till the edge is just black. So I will paint it black to the edge. And then at some point right here, there's a light gray part that shows up. So you have to also include that and be careful not to cover it because you will ruin the shape of your brush, of your spoon, sorry. Okay, so that's why I sketched it in before so that I don't forget. Again, when you're doing this, little details like that will matter. So don't skip. Don't skip painting in the small lines on the edges. Okay, and don't stress if it's not too dark or if it's not dark. Dries. Okay, so just the thing, of course, with working small is your brushes won't be able to absorb a lot of water and pigment. Okay, so Facebook just warned me there's something about my internet connection. Do you guys have problems seeing me or hearing me? Oh, thank you. Again, as you can see, it's just a lot of detail work, which you guys can totally do. In fact, there's not much shading from dark to light going on. It's really several different shades side by side in various tones. So a lot of uh, a lot of patience and paying attention to the shapes, to the colors. Okay, but I really suggest you start simple first. A metallic surface with not too many different colors reflecting. As you achieve this and it becomes easier, then you can move on to the metallic colors that reflect other colors as well. So, for example, if I put this brush, it's reflective. If it's just like this, it just reflects the light. But if I put a red object near it, it reflects the red object. Okay, so it's very changeable depending on what's near your reflective surface. Okay, so again, the dark part is done. So I'm going to darken this part right here a little bit, slightly. It's a bit darker gray than what I painted before, so I'm just going to add to it. Again, do this in layers. Okay, you don't want to add another layer and suddenly it's too dark. You can always add another one later, but it's much harder to remove a too dark layer. And again, try to keep your crisp edges because, okay, I'm glad it reconnected again. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, you want to keep your crisp edges because, again, you want this to look like a metallic spoon and not something soft. Okay, you want it to look like it's hard. Okay, so I think it already looks metallic somewhat. Okay, so again, doing all those little curls, little curves will really help. Okay, so again, I will add the grays. Okay, so there's a gray right beside this dark part. A little bit here and there, so I will do that. So this is where your detail brushes will come in handy. Okay, so I feel like this is too dark, so I'm gonna lift it off. Okay. Okay, there's a bit of gray there. And there's also here. So I'm going to also add that. Okay, so it's kind of hard to keep a straight line, but persevere. This is a number one round. This is from our fine line. I think it's sold out at the moment because it has become so popular for the details. But this is fine line from Zen Art. So this is a whole set of like this of detail brushes. Okay, so it's really for works like this that need a lot of detail. And I really switch to a smaller brush when I need the thin lines because it's just so much easier. You don't have to worry about suddenly, even if I press hard, um, I won't be able to make a thick line, no matter how hard I try to. So that's when your um, detail brushes really come in handy. Okay, so now there's a dark part here. So I'm going to add that and then make it go lighter. Oh, another thing that I like about the detail brushes is um, usually they're shaped differently, as you can see right here. It's in a um, triangular shape, so it really fits right between your three fingers, so it gives you more control, which you really need when you're doing details and you're like nervous already. Okay, so okay, I like it, and I have another dark part here. But the thing is, the edge, there's a clear edge here, but inside, it's not so clear. So I will start painting from the outside and then fade it inwards. Okay, so you also have to look at things like that, because again, it will make a difference. I know I'm repeating it, but it really does, and I want you to remember that. Okay, so I'm going to start outside again, as mentioned, until the edge. Okay, and then it goes and does a really thin line along this edge. Connecting here and disappears. Okay, so there it looks like that. So you see the very thin line on the edge. So you have to do things like this. Okay, don't be afraid, you can stop every now and then, and again, use your detail brushes. I really recommend that you also have some detail brushes, because there will be times like this where you will need to switch to them so that you can just create this really fine and delicate lines, which is really very important for works like this, and will also be very useful if you like to do florals, botanical works. Okay, all those thin lines, all those fine thin lines will be so easy. Okay, so now there's also a lighter, okay, a lighter gray right here. Okay, actually that's too dark, so I'm just going to lift it off. Okay, so don't be afraid to lift it off. Lots of process now. Oh no, sorry, it's my internet is suddenly fluctuating. Let me know if it continues. Okay, so again, I'm going to curve it over here because it curves here. And really dark details right here. So a lot of details, okay? So be prepared to do a lot of the details, which will really make everything come together in the end. So just focus on one area at the time so you don't feel overwhelmed. Okay. So just be careful that you don't have a lot of wiggly lines when there should be a straight line. Okay, I'm going to now add texture, like brushed metal also here on the handle. And darken the parts where I feel like, um, what is it about the internet today? No! Oh, it has been working fine the whole day earlier, and suddenly when there's a live, it does this. Oh, internet. Okay, so here I'm going to add the little darks and little grays that I see. So this is where you just go in and just take your time. Okay, so this connects here. So my paints are drying, so just awaken them again. Okay, so it connects to the one here. Remember I said earlier this has a clear edge, but here not so much. So again, I'm going to try to mimic that. Oh, sorry. Um, if it's too hard, anyway, this video will be saved after. So there will be a replay, which might be better for you. Um, that might not have not too much interruptions, or you can just forward. Unfortunately, I am. I cannot do anything about it. But I'll just continue so you guys can still watch the replay, even if it's like constantly being interrupted right now. Okay, so again, I'm going to darken the edge again, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm doing it in layers because, again, I don't want to end up with a too dark um, edge that will just take away from the whole thing. And I'm also fixing the edge right here, which looks a bit odd, but now I'm shaping it properly. Okay, so also try to do your shapes properly so that it doesn't look like it's wonky or like it's bent or anything like that. And then for the edges that you see that has a slightly darker edge, you also fill that in, okay? Try to put that in as well. Okay, and I'm almost there. So let me just go through everything, looking at my reference photo, checking for things that I might have missed. All right. Some parts I'm darkening slightly. Okay, so I do a lot of rinsing of my brush at this point because I don't want things to end up too dark. And then I'm just going to go over here again and add a bit of a darker shade to my line. And then this part, which I've been eyeing already earlier, I'm going to darken as well. So this is the part where you do some shading, just very lightly, nothing too complicated. And then make it fade upwards towards the line right here. So they're like connected. Okay, and then again, there's the tiniest bit of line here. Every tiny thing that you see, please do it. Okay, so this is the time where you can't take so many shortcuts. So just prepare yourself. But you know, it's really worth it in the end when it starts to look like metal. Okay, so uh, just go through with it, even though you feel like there's just so many going on. Okay, at some point it will all end, and you'll have done everything, and it will look great. Okay, so now I'm again with my very small brush. I will go and do the edge here. Okay, so there's like um, a darker gray edge up to at this point, and then it disappears a little bit. So there are disappearing lines, and comes back somewhere here. And then disappears again before it reaches the edge. Okay, so this is a bit too fat, so I'm going to lift off some paint. Okay, so unless your color is very staining, you can still lift it off. So don't worry. Okay, and on the edge right here is a gray color. Okay, so this is my spoon. Okay, so right now it's practically finished. Okay, I just need to add some details here, and then once you add the shadow under, it will look even better. Okay, but again, that's up to you. You can just do the spoon. You don't have to do um, the shadows under if you don't want. If you just want to focus on the metallic surface. Okay, so some parts where you feel like it's a bit lighter, then go over them. But again, slowly. Okay, don't overdo things. Okay, so um, here's my spoon again. I fixed it as much as I can at this point. Okay, so all the little things that you need to add, the edge, the small lines right there. Okay, here too, the edge. Okay, the line, the disappearing line, reappearing, disappearing. Okay, try to do that too. Again, it's really good to do these um, soft lines, disappearing lines, because our eyes, our brain just fills it in. Okay, and it doesn't look too hard. Okay, it looks like it's light reflected, and some parts are more visible, some parts are not. And in the end, you want it to show that it's reflective. Okay, if at the end it looks like it's a reflective thing, then you've succeeded. Okay, so I hope you try this out. Again, if you find that this is so it's too complicated, or it's too much to start with, um, you can also try to look for photos of a nib of a fountain pen. Okay, I've done it before, and it's a smaller metal, but it's a nice visual. It's visually appealing, so it's a nice thing to also paint. Okay, so that's it. I hope that wasn't too much. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out now. Okay, and then flip back to my face. All right, so thank you for joining me, guys. Okay, again, here's my tiny spoon. Okay, I hope it looks like a spoon. Okay, so I like it like this, like it's floating. Okay, I'm not sure yet if I want to add the surface. I'll see. You can practice with a spoon, you can practice with a fork, or you can practice with other metals that you have in your house. And again, I suggest that you also observe, like if you have a metal mug or a kettle or a jar, place it in different parts of your house, see how, observe how the light reflects on it, how the other colors nearby reflect on it, what it looks like. You can take photos. Observation is really the best when you're doing metal. Okay, so unfortunately with metal, you really can't just loosely paint anything. So with metal, you have to be precise, and you have to do all the little changes that you see, that you feel like, I can just go without that. Don't. Okay, so even the tiniest line here, I did. So that will make a difference. Okay, so every little line, every little change in color, just have the patience to do it. So you will rarely have to do any shading. The only shading that I did is here on this part, and that's it. All the other parts are lines, and all the other parts are straight lines. And so you have to try to have a steady hand. Okay, so if you're painting small, then switch to your smallest brushes. Okay, because like earlier, I was trying to do it with a round brush, remember? And then I just gave up and switched to my smaller brush because it really makes a big difference. Okay, so I hope you try this out. because it is fun and it is so doable. Okay, it just needs you just need to set a time where you just work on it part by part, area by area, and you can finish this totally. Okay, so if you do, don't forget to share your work. I'd love to see them because we'll all have our collection of spoons. Okay, so thank you for joining me, guys, and thanks for staying on despite the erratic internet. Doesn't happen often, so I hope you still join me for the next times. We always have something new. And if you guys have any suggestions, if you have things that you want to see how I do it, or you want some guidance on something, let us know. Like this is a suggestion, this metallic thing which I loved, so we did today. So just send your requests, and we'll try to accommodate them. Okay. So, and also if you have questions, just ask anytime in the group, and Theodora and I will reply as soon as we can. Okay, thank you guys for joining, and have a great week ahead. And I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.